Hi, it's Don Southerton and a weekly episode of Everything Korea Office Chat. This week, let's go ahead and get started. I have my notes ready. I have my coffee. I'll sip that first. So, in this week's Office Chat, I wear my historian's hat and share some events tied to Korea's past. Now, Monday is South Korea's holiday that commemorates a nationwide independence movement which took place in 1919. Now, today is a national holiday. Many businesses are closed on Monday, and it's been a 3-day weekend. Now, to share some background, after a decade of repressive nature of Japanese colonialization, on March 1st, 1919, a group of Korean activists openly proclaimed Korea's right to self-determination under Japanese rule. Now, this was in part motivated in the wake of the end of World War I, which was, of course, ended up in 1918. During this time, American President Woodrow Wilson really was promoting a nation's rights and a policy called self-determination, which means that a nation, a group of people with similar political ambitions, can seek out its own independent government or state. Now, Wilson's thoughts were counter to many of the European powers, who at that time still promoted colonialism and imperialism. That said, the Korean Declaration led to massive crowd assembly in Korea. And although peaceful, Japanese police and military suppression led to violence. Now, the sole demonstrations at this time were met by thousands of arrests and violence. It's estimated that around 15,000 Koreans were injured and maybe more than 7,000 were killed. Now, in turn, those independence leaders were either captured and imprisoned or forced into exile, and a provisional government was established. Now, I cannot downplay at the same time the cultural assimilation policies that the Japanese were imposing over the 35 years of control of the peninsula. Not to mention land distribution to Japanese landlords. Virtually all industry, either Japanese-based corporations or Japanese corporations in Korea. Now, some will it did manage to end up in local hands, mostly small businesses. For example, Hyundai's founder ran a garage business during these years, as well as the predecessor to what is today Kia Motors and their fledgling bicycle component operation. Many times there's references that they were operating a bicycle company. It was really, they were making components at that time. And both of these endeavors, after the fall of the Japanese rule, would then grow into the companies that we're very aware of today. I'm not trying to make a political statement here, but just trying to give people awareness of the culture, what's going on there, and the suppression. Japanese colonial policies were in many ways similar to the 19th and 20th century forced attempts to reprogram and outlaw America's native people's behavior in an effort to civilize and eventually, assimilate our American native peoples into mainstream society. So Japan was trying to do the same thing, assimilate Koreans into the Japanese society. All said, one positive outcome, despite the Japanese rule, was a growing sense of Korean nationalism, which is still seen today and is what the holiday is about and what it commemorates. So, all this has been very important, I think, in the shaping of South Korea today as a nation. Again, I didn't really want to make a political statement today, but at the same time, it's very important that when we see they have Korean holidays, whether it be Hangul Day, which commemorates the language, or, the Independence Day in August, which celebrates the Japanese rule being terminated. These are all important things for their country. And so as us, maybe as non-Koreans, it sometimes helps us to better understand their culture, their people, what they've endured, some of the geopolitics of the region between China and Korea, China and Japan, Japan and Korea. So if you have any questions on these issues, I'm always here and available to help you with this office chat. Again, this national holiday falls on Monday, March 1st. So by many of you will be reading this as it goes on. Businesses are closed. Things resume on, Tuesday as always. Again, thank you so much. Again, this is Don Southerton wishing you all the best. One more sip of coffee.